Hello, this is Catherine Marie, and you are listening to episode 3 of season 2. And this episode is about 2 things that can make your long COVID worse. And these are 2 insights that I recently was able to get from my younger sibling who also has long COVID. We were recently comparing notes as to why I am having more flare-ups, and we realized that my sister, ever since the study came out about the exercise for people with long COVID, that exercise actually is harmful to the tissue. She has been steering very clear of exercise, and I have been trying to just try anything to get any sort of traction to be able to exercise. And I've spent time trying to go at a very low rate and then trying to build on it, which is what it can be referred to as, like, I think it's graded or gradual exercise therapy, something to that effect. But she said she was just really surprised that I just keep trying and trying to exercise, and I keep getting thrown into flare-ups. And we talked about 2 things that I have that I think might be some of the reasons why I am not doing as well as my sister right now. We both have ADHD, but I have a very strong sense of justice and fairness, and I also have the rejection sensitivity that you can get with ADHD. So she does not have either one, and not everybody with ADHD has these 2 traits, but they are common in ADHD. So as far as the trait of having a really strong sense of justice, she was saying that she thought that I just am having a really hard time accepting the reality of long COVID. And because it is so unfair, and it has no rhyme or reason to it as to why you feel good one day and you may not another day. And I'm always trying to come up with this formula for how to be as active as possible but not get flare-ups. And my sister has not that way. She just has accepted that she has long COVID, and she calls it slugging. So sometimes she'll have to slug in her bed for a while, and whereas I'm usually trying to fight it and just feeling angry and upset and frustrated because I feel like it's unfair and I shouldn't have to rest and not exercise. So I think that is getting me into some trouble. And then the other thing is the rejection sensitivity. So this is something that if you have ADHD and you have been, listening to ADHD podcasts or in different groups or following different people who talk about ADHD, rejection sensitivity is a pretty common trait. And it just means that, exactly how it sounds, that there's kind of this sensitivity to rejection by other people, or even things that may not be like a full-blown rejection, but kind of if someone's short with you, someone else might not have that bother them. But I don't know if this is related, but I'm usually very good at reading people's micro expressions, and I think this comes from growing up having ADHD, that you're constantly trying to figure out how to act normally in the world because you don't have a sense of acting normally like other people seem to. And so you're constantly looking to other people to see how you should be acting. And therefore, you're really good at watching people's micro expressions and even just little tiny inflections in their voice, or like I said, their face or anything. So I think in a way that can be really good if you are an actor or actress, or you do something something dramatic, some sort of art form. I think this might be why I think that my voice is not, I think it's a good voice for a podcast because there's a lot of expression in the tone, because I think this is all related to the same things, all related to the ADHD and the rejection sensitivity and being really good at reading micro expressions and listening to how someone says something in the tone, and just being very sensitive to how things are said. So how does that relate to long COVID? Well, I'm glad you asked. I think that for me, I think that there's a huge part of me that doesn't want people to think that I'm lazy. And this is a huge, huge thing for me. Like, I will run myself into the ground because I feel like I need to make sure that I'm doing my part, like on a team or in a family, or particularly in a work environment too, or at home, just kind of pushing myself to do as much as possible and to make sure that I'm doing the same as everyone else or more, because I don't want to be thought of as not doing my part. So, and I think how that relates to long COVID is it makes me more likely to want to push myself to get better and to be more active and to basically please other people and, people please. And I think that these two things are kind of nuanced, and I didn't really put them together, but my sibling who has long COVID also is a very insightful human being. She would make a fantastic psychologist or therapist, but she doesn't want to do that. But she would be a really good one, because she sees things like this in human behavior and psychology and stuff. So I am going to try to focus on more acceptance, because I can't control what other people think about me, and if they think I'm lazy, or if they think that I should just suck it up and I shouldn't be retiring because I'm only 41. Why in the world would I retire, right? I mean, this is what I think about all the time, trying to make it just kind of have it make sense in my brain, because nothing about long COVID makes sense to me. It's just it's like I was just dropped off into a new world that is so bizarre. It looks like the same world that I was in before, but it's like there are no rules like gravity or something, like just the things that I'm used to being a constant in my life. All of a sudden, there is not really a constant, and there's really no justice or fairness. I keep thinking to myself, like, why should I have long COVID? Why wouldn't someone who likes relaxing more, and doesn't like to work, why don't they get long COVID? Because then they would be happy, Why would someone who really likes to work get long COVID and then be miserable because they can't work and they can't do anything and they can't even freaking exercise? It's just so frustrating. So I need to talk about that with my therapist and try to figure out how to be more accepting of having long COVID, and to try to stop pushing myself so hard to go back to work, or to not even go back to work. That's a really big response, but even just, for example, trying to exercise and pushing myself harder and harder to try to exercise, all of the pushing through and all of the sucking it up, all of that stuff does not help with long COVID. It makes it worse. So all of my coping mechanisms for my whole life up until now to be successful are keeping me back from healing, which is really frustrating because I am a really high achiever type personality. I love achieving things. It's fun, it's and it has a sense of justice to it. If you do the things, you're rewarded with the achievement. But this is nothing like a regular, fair achievement type paradigm, This is just like a crap show, a SHIT show, just, it doesn't make any sense. And I also hate when people ask me, well, are you coming back to work? Kind of just as if they're confused and annoyed that I would not be at work. And they may not even mean it that way. But again, rejection sensitivity, you pick up on little things and it just really bothers you, and it crushes you because you just are thinking, I've busted my butt at my job my whole life. Not that I've been at the same job my whole life, but I've been at, every job I've been at, I've just given it my all and then some, and pushed myself. And this is the first time in my life that I've said, no, I can't do it anymore. And it wasn't because I had some epiphany. It's because my body physically could not do it anymore, physically and mentally. But physically was the real reason, because we do a lot of things beyond what we should be doing mentally, I think. But physically, that's a hard stop, So these are the things to work on. Just accepting that long COVID is not fair, and accepting that people are not going to understand. The fellow long haulers, they will understand, and some select few who truly want to understand will understand, but the vast majority of people either cannot or will not understand. And part of that is because it's a form of self-protection, right? Because in medicine, you always want to be empathetic towards your patients, but there is a certain amount of a self-protective mechanism that you have to have, because you will never ever make it if you give 100% empathy to every single patient. It just doesn't work. You have to develop a way to protect your emotions and your mental health and stuff. So it's easy. It's not just in that realm, but also everybody in everyday life does this. This is why we will easily judge somebody going through a hard time, because we want to make sure that in our minds we have protected ourselves from being in that situation. So we blame the person in the situation, because then that helps us feel safe that we won't be in the situation because we wouldn't do what they did to get in the situation. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think a lot of people who do not have long COVID, and I very well may have been exactly the same way if I didn't have long COVID myself, just thinking, okay, well, there's something wrong with them. They're not working hard enough. They're not trying hard enough. I would never do that. Blah, blah, blah. So the rejection sensitivity, I need to not take it personally, because this is a form of self-protection that people do so that they don't have to have emotional distress or mental distress just thinking about how easily it could be them with long COVID. Anyway, all of that, I think I've been talking too long and I'm starting to not make sense, just rambling, but those are the two things. First is the sense of fairness and justice, and I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, well, that is it for today, but I would really like to know if anyone else feels this way, or if I don't know, if it's just me. It may just be me. That's totally fine. But I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. Please take good care of yourself, and we'll talk again soon. Okay, thanks. Positive feedback helps to continue attracting more people who might benefit from this podcast. If you wouldn't mind leaving a review and subscribing to the podcast, I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I also love hearing from you. Please email me at longcovidrealtalk@gmail.com, or you can call or text 650-382-2217.